Starting lineup: Mundo, Yi, Rise, Samira, Zyra, up against Mordekaiser, Talon, Yone, Fortune, Seraphine. Rating of the picks for a lower ranked game: Mundo as a top, 10. Yi in the jungle, 6. Rise as a mid, 5. Samira as a shooter, 10. Zyra in support, 5. Mordekaiser as a top, 9. Yone as a mid, 7. Fortune as a shooter, 8. Seraphine in support, 8. We have here God of Italia, 15 years old. We have here Damon from 1994. We have the opportunity to celebrate the Noxus season by going back to Talon, a Noxian assassin, Noxian in heart and soul. And I've referenced many times that this channel was about casual play. In the end, we went something like 7 and 15 and clearly failed in ranked. And it could theoretically be ego, but I cannot help feeling like every single one of those 7 victories, I had to hero ball it. Because it seems like if I'm not popping off like crazy, we can't win a basic game in lower ranked. I need to establish a routine, and what is today my best performance has to become my standard and normal level of play. And I will stay there unless I go on at least a 10-game winning streak. Perhaps if I learn to min-max everything, I can systematically learn to turn bad games around. And we will then presumably use that in the second season for this year, assuming there will be one. We see very early on here without items, this Fortune player is landing an impressive skill shot, causing first blood. This is an indication that this player is wasted on this environment, because you're probably the only person here who could make that shot under those circumstances. And so what happens, of course, is a single death. And so since we have a single death, we're going to freak out, as one would. So we're going to ping Hysteria and WTF. Enemies are missing. And then we're gonna go on a little promenade in Zyra, and we end up getting across the mid lane. And now we have Zyra and Yi going together after the Scuttler. And then Seraphine is going to make the decision to, instead of running away from it, she's going to spin in a circle around it, all the while casting a single spell, while these two are just letting loose on Seraphine. And then after the death, of course, you have the obligatory WTF, as in, Talon, what are you doing? Why didn't you jump in there? Yes, why didn't I jump in? Why didn't I jump in as you spun a circle around 2 people, dragging them toward me? Because it would have been much better if without help I would have started attacking them hysterically, so we could have both died, because that would have been me attacking versus 2 people attacking me, so I'm never winning that. And this Seraphine is going to spend the rest of the game pretty much traveling up and down the river, which really makes you wonder how on earth did this person ever collect gold or experience? Because usually you have to be at the jungle creepers or in a lane to collect experience and money. I don't know, maybe a sugar daddy. But from the onset, as you would, we're gonna have unspoken beef between this young Rosello and this Misfortune player. And it is perhaps not excessive to point out that music is music, and go ahead and knock yourself out and do whatever you like the best. But there is no question that when people are making these hip-hop references, like Young Thug, Young Rosello, Big Money, Records, when people put that in their profile and they put that in their name, it usually takes them about 20 seconds before they have a fight with someone. I've never seen one of these hip-hop people who put it in their profile be functional on a social level in a game. There is always a problem with the fellow laner, or there is always a problem with the team. They always immediately have beef. And let this piece of footage perhaps serve as a tribute to how futile it is to start beefing with your teammates in-game, because naturally the first thing that happens is Fortune ends up sacrificing her life for the Seraphine player who has beef, and Samira ends up running after Zyra who has beef. And so immediately the persons that you're beefing with and that you're attacking on a personal level are the first ones who have to help you out. So don't do this. Also, in display, the eternal chauvinism of the mid. And while I try to be inclusive, it is a very poorly kept secret on this channel that I despise mid players more than other players. Because you just feel entitled to that mid position above all things, and there is never anything in return. You play in the star role, but when a teammate is dying right next to you, you won't even pretend to care. And this is one of the few things that systematically enrages me. It is something that I cannot stand, something that angers me, something that stirs my soul. And we're off to the races, and the emotional undertone is already set and it is dark. So we have this Yi player standing in my way everywhere, and I must say, it's a somewhat bizarre experience as a brittle assassin to put this fighter champion Yi in the ground time after time from a disadvantageous position. And so 5 seconds later, this Yi's in the way again. So we go after him, but we find only rides. I say we because by now, it's just become common practice for the Seraphine to be somewhere upstream. This Rise, supposedly a grand champion in Worlds. Never seen him do much of anything, I must say. Naturally, all this happens without assistance from Yone because, you know, mids. We end up with this Fortune player taking care of the Ocean Drake, and the more that I watch this footage, the more that I'm becoming aware of the fact that this Fortune player was playing better than anyone. And if you keep this up on Fortune and the system works, then there is no way that you're not gonna rank up. The constant movement from the Seraphine player suggests a commitment, and usually if a person would behave like this, I would say, well, that's awesome, thank you so much for giving your jungler a hand. But it seems to me like this person was more concerned with helping themselves than with helping the team. And like many big hip-hop names in the League player base, you ended up expending a ton of energy for very little results. It was a lot of sweating and very little accomplishing. This game seems to be full of people who overthink everything and start going around in circles. Like we saw recently with the pointless sidestepping of Yorick in a previous game, and here we now have this Seraphine just always being around enemies, but rarely using any spells. And it seems as though you're waiting either for some kind of divine moment where something magical will help you, and it seems like you're waiting for the outcome of some devious plan that only you are in on, and some kind of super sly way to outthink everybody that never ends up happening. And as poor as some of these coordination elements on the red team played out, if I would have paid attention to your hysterical pinging, then it would have probably been even worse. We are now 2 plays in, and now we've seen 3 examples of Yone letting people die right next to him and not giving an S. So yeah, that's why there's more to a game than just KDA. And that is why this Fortune player was infinitely better than this Yone player. On a strategy level, the greatest takeaway here is that none of these people would have been upriver if not for Seraphine constantly traveling around. What you see here is a couple of people, but mainly me, being made to suffer the consequences of a secret plan from the hip-hop child Seraphine, who peeps the game and knows how to make big bang. Then you see me vaulting over the walls of the Dragon Shrine, and to every Talon player, this is the source of an unending restlessness, because there are minuscule little visual differences in these jungle spots that will determine whether you will be able to get away with your third spell or not. And very frequently, it is the difference between life or death on Talon, and it all depends on a tiny little visual element in a wall. We end up seeing Fortune run into a turret on purpose, and we have our hip-hop hood darky Seraphine, who immediately makes fun of this Fortune player dying. Now I will say, this technique of running into turrets to avoid handing the enemy team a kill is something we see in 50% of the world's games. It is wildly overused in these Iron games. There is no way on earth that people are gonna chase you down that far or have the skills to chase you down that far. In the past 3 videos, we've now seen 3 or 4 examples of people running into turrets on purpose, specifically Diana, Ashe, and now Fortune. It is really worth pointing out, this is most likely excessive. Just poured back to the fountain. You're going to have time. Mundo is not gonna follow you all the way throughout the jungle, in the same way that I in the previous game did not follow Ashe all the way throughout the jungle. This is a very fancy technique for the pros to handicap the enemy money flow by suiciding, but you really don't have to do this. This constant presence of half the blue team around the bottom lane and where the Drake's Nest is just had my hands full at any given time. Never ever ending pressure. Now Mundo coming over. And we notice at all times this Yone player just not giving an S, being all by himself. Percentage-wise, the best record in this game at 8 kills and 3 deaths. But we're gonna see here in a moment, as soon as anybody pays any attention to him and tries to defend against him, he's going to start crying and begging in chat that we should now all come to the top lane because that is where he is. Because apparently at no given time did this Yone player accept any kind of challenge or any kind of controversy of any kind? A summary really of the Yone player's actions in this game is, I only want free stuff. And as soon as things got hard, he pretty much took off. This Yone player Authir, especially apparently a human being who believes that everything will always be fine as long as he doesn't get personally involved with the bad stuff. This person asked me before the game to trade spots with him so that he could have the best pick, and indeed from the beginning to the end, the only thing this person did was just play for his own KDA. But really taken to an extreme, because by itself playing for your KDA can be positive at times, but not if you're not willing to make any kind of team contribution. When your fellow teammates are struggling, and you're clearly aware of it, I could blame this on the magic resist, because I do get the impression that every time it is the very first bit of resist that you stack that has the greatest effect of all. It resembles a lot the way that working memory for a computer works. RAM, if you stack multiple disks of RAM on top of each other, they will never have the same level of efficiency as that first bit of RAM. And that is exactly what it is like in League to get Wit's End or Death's Dance or Torn Mail for the first time. But this is far more than just being a conformist and not going with defensive items. There was a dynamic to the blue team where for some reason they were always on the same page from the start. As always with successful teams, there was way less stalking than on the red team. The team with the most stalk is always losing. My technical takeaway from this game was the function of Oracle Lens, ward placement, and Umbral Glaive. I recently made fun of Umbral Glaive, and I have to take that completely back. One thing that I've been able to pinpoint about Oracle Lens that is so unfortunate is that it always is too little too late, because of the fact that even when you have Oracle Lens active, they still give away your position on the map if there's a nearby enemy ward. And so the only thing that you're doing is if somebody 2 minutes from now comes by the same tree or happens to be in the same bush, then they will not get spotted by that ward after you took it down with Oracle Lens, which makes it a patently useless item because it doesn't make you less visible in any way. Just include Umbral Glaive in my jungler builds. And the fourth play here is where the trickle play in this game shines, which is to say, you see these players on Team Red trickle in drop by drop and just gradually, one by one, being thrown into the lion's den. And you see these players on Team Blue like a ball of glue, sticking together, and that little bit of fate that they have in each other, just keeping each other safe. Threat of the firepower of 5 people. And this is where you as a player start looking around too much. Looking at you, looking at me, people like that Seraphine player don't make it any easier. And you start fundamentally trying to people please. And that's how you get situations where you just throw yourself into your own death, bowing to the social diktat. You had this Rise player and this Mundo player leading by example. I think that was the main difference. I have arguably never seen so many actions taken with so little result as from the Seraphine player. Wherever you look at the tape, if you find Seraphine, you have her standing around, shooting one missile, and then retreating, and then going basically up and down the river. I will say, on a level of quantum physics and the mysteries of the world, it is a thoroughly intriguing element that this player was somehow capable of getting to level 15. I don't know how the F that is possible. A sad game and a game of excuses, not solutions. And at some point, at the edge of the red base, we have Mordekaiser going into ping crisis and telling me what the F am I doing, enemies are missing, because I'm running into the blue team, tanking the hits. And he's like, what the F are you doing tanking the hits? And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's weird, right? It turns out that in League of Legends, you can't just Super Mario it and mushroom jump over everything. League is about roles. And here we have Mordekaiser built like a shooter, Yone built like a shooter, Fortune built like a shooter, Seraphine built like a shooter. So yeah, somebody's gonna have to do it, right, darling? I mean, I don't know how they roll in Italy, but then you get these bizarre situations where a Talon has to go out and tank the hits, and you notice that the moment that I do, indeed, suddenly the entire team starts functioning, and Seraphine starts closing in, and Yone starts attacking, right? It's almost as though the game was designed with the idea of role-playing roles in mind, where you have a tank, a bruiser, a mage, a shooter, and so on. Almost as though let him put on Dead's Dance then and go out and tank some hits, so that the rest can initiate. It's something that is so obviously one of the top 3 issues in any and all of these games that I simply stopped bringing it up for the most part, because we kind of just at some point settle and accept that this is just what, for whatever reason, the game turned into, because apparently top players, mid players, and support players would prefer to lose games rather than putting on a piece of armor. In summary, looking at individual players, we have this Mundo, the definition of a winning player, has a great mindset, has a great champion, and this is just as good as it gets. If you reproduce this behavior, you will win many games. We have this Yi player who can scarcely be blamed for his build choices and his strategical decisions. Because apparently the internet gods who created the build guides seamlessly agree with him. Yi, the closest champion to Viego really just a slightly more efficient version of Yi. In my opinion, some of the most ridiculous champions in the video game. Because as much as I lay into Jinx, partially for entertainment reasons and entertainment value, and I am kind of obligated to give Jinx incredibly low score because of the number of games that she appears in and the number of games that she loses. At the end of the day, if you really do this with Yi, and if this is the way, and this is the only kind of hyper carry that exists between Jinx, Viego, and Yi, if this is what it means, handing him Infinity Edge, Blade of the Ruined King, Bloodthirster, like you would on Jinx, then he is just an incredibly dysfunctional version of Jinx who is occasionally played in a role where people just take him more seriously, and much of the great play that follows occasionally from picking Yi has to do with the attitude of the players, since they're able to have self-respect that they can't have while running around on Jinx. And it's really an attitude issue more than anything else. Yi gets exposed less than Jinx. Yi gets to hide more than Jinx. Yi gets more advantages on the map than Jinx. Yi doesn't get humiliated as much as Jinx. And so it makes him look like a totally different champion, but when you boil it all down, if you're really gonna build him like this, he's just a worse version of Jinx. Now, I have to be careful to buck every big build guide and every big league website, because some of those people are obviously going to know more than me. But what I read today about how Ruined King is supposed to hold the enemy in place and slow them down, and then it makes sense, and it all makes sense to give Yi these Jinx items because Blade of the Ruined King is going to hold the target still for you? This nonsense that I read, I will blatantly buck against, and I will blatantly call it lies 100% of the time. And you have been lied to if you believe that gobbledygook. We have Rise. I have nothing to say about Rise. He had a good, mature attitude. I don't like Rise from what I see as a champion. I don't like him. Maybe one day I will. We have Samira, who throughout this game is mostly known for getting a dozen free setups from this Seraphine player who taxis back and forth up and down the river and up and down and up and down, and Samira essentially runs after him and just melees her down a couple of times. We have this toxic Zyra player. In the end, you were a person who only clouded themselves. You build all out hyper-offensively and played in support. That already inherently means that you are a sabotaging bastard. To watch support players like that play DPS mage themselves, get so toxic and so demanding of other people, I'm like, what the F? Imagine that you blew past a stop sign and that a cop stopped you and said, hey, what the hell are you doing? Why are you breaking the rules of traffic? Why are you breaking the rules of the road? And you would just get mad as hell at the cop and just go, well, you effer, it's actually all your fault and I'm so upset with you, cop. I'm so upset with you, cop. It's all you policemen's fault. Like, imagine that you would. That's kind of what it is like. Getting so toxic immediately as this Zyra player. It's like you're literally inherently screwing the shooter over by not picking something like Leona and then trying to do all the damage yourself and trying to get all the kills yourself, and then you immediately get angry as though they cheated you. How bizarre. We have this Mordekaiser player who, all in all, I have to be real, like, this is God of Italia 15. 15 years old. I have to be honest, for a young man and a young boy, I would rather have them like this personally. This guy was living in a fantasy and was a stupid person, but at least he triple-double committed, and at least he tried to help literally everyone. I'd rather have players be like that and overcommitting and making stupid mistakes than not giving an S. A lot of passionate play from this Mordekaiser. We have Yone, who's the complete polar opposite, who at times it is important indeed to not die too many times. That is very true, at least he knew that. It is important at times to have a high KDA because it ensures money flow for the team. That is very true. And it's good that this Yone player was aware of this, but it's just like, you can't not care about what happens to your teammates. Then we have this Damon 1994, the best player in the game. And he got effed over by Team Red. This Fortune player was the best player in the game. It's also a beautiful part of the human experience to see how this constantly going back to Fortune over and over again endows you with this deep, visceral feeling of when to use bullet time the best. And I wish I could have this guy as a shooter on any team in any game that I played. Honestly, all in all, this guy may be the best shooter I've ever played with in my life. Well, he was close. He was close. Given the circumstance, he did die a couple of times. He really did die a couple of times. But given the circumstances, this guy is pure gold, this Fortune player, and he got screwed over by the team. And then this Seraphine player, I'm not gonna talk about him because I already spent the rest of the video talking about him. We have had a lot of losses this season. We have had a lot of complete disasters in ranked play this season. We are not getting anywhere. A loss like this, I can turn it into a video and I can actually play it. When I get completely blown out in a loss, and the enemy team goes 40-2 or 40-5, I can't make a video about that. It's impossible. Because there is just simply nothing to talk about. In a competitive loss here, I can make a video about it, so here you have one of the many defeats that we've had. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, you went 6, 12, and 11 with 15,500 gold. So let's start here. How do you have 15,500 gold and I have 13,700 gold and you killed 6 people and I killed 11 people? How is that possible? I get it that sometimes there are external factors and many times it has to do with winning teams and losing teams and overall gold balance. I get it. But a difference of 5 kills? I outdo you by 5 kills, which is nearly doubling your total? And you're still making 2,000 gold more than me? Find that somewhat questionable and bizarre. So I made my way to the guides that all of the YouTube uses, and this game quote-unquote has been figured out, and I listened to some of the stuff that they were saying about Yi and Ruined King, and their synergy. So the story is that when you hit someone with Ruined King, I'm presuming now I've also partially solved the Warwick revelations, when you hit someone with Ruined King, they supposedly slow down. And the idea is that his primary issue, him being Yi, is that the enemies are kiting you. And so by using Ruined King, you pin them down and slow them down. And now your issue is solved because you can just auto-attack them down like that. Now I have only one question. Are you people out of your mind? That's your strategy? This minor slow is going to let you auto-attack him like Caitlyn could, like Jin could? Are you people out of your mind? That's your reasoning. You think that little slow is going to do that for you? If need be, I will argue over this until I have my own guide. with my own name on it. This is dogma. It is a fixation. It's a lie. And I don't care how many numbskull, blind followers you have, there is no way that this is optimal. And anybody who's ever tried to attack someone in melee can confirm that, if they open their eyes. Yeah, we see here someone with great experience in Fortune who's been playing her for forever. Rapid fire cannon, Infinity Edge here, Renons. And it is just such a miserable, rough and tough life, is it not? The amount of people who put their characters together in a similar way boggles the mind, and it's hard to believe how much you would embrace this playstyle where if anybody puts their hands on you for a split second, you instantly melt. Isn't it strange that all humans seem to prefer this? It is almost impossible to put more pressure on yourself. It is almost impossible to turn yourself into more of a glass cannon. And certainly, if you can achieve this on Fortune under these circumstances, you could do much greater things if you have that much coordination. To play a bullet hell game with essentially one life point, or one hit point.
Let's finish this quickly.
First blood.
The taste of steel. Your allegiances mean nothing to me. They won't survive. There's nowhere to hide. Don't cross me. On the razor's edge. Let's fight.
An ally has been slain.
Let's finish this quickly. Your allegiances mean nothing to me. They won't survive. There's nowhere to hide.
An ally has been slain. You have slain an enemy. You have been slain. An enemy has been slain. Double kill.
Don't cross me. On the razor's edge. Only fools get right to heart. Pathetic.
You have slain an enemy.
I never compromise. Let's finish this quickly.
Killing spree. Shut down.
I didn't see the third one. I didn't see the fucking third one.
Enemy triple kill.
Your allegiances mean nothing to me.
That's the start, really? That's the start? This is the start? What the F?
They won't survive.
Enemy has been slain.
Nowhere to hide.
Enemy rampage.
Cross me.
An ally has been slain.
On the razor's edge. pledge life to honor.
Shut down.
Let's finish this quickly. Your allegiances mean nothing to me.
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Another body for the gutter. There's nowhere to hide.
Your turret has been destroyed. You have slain an enemy. Turret plating will fall soon.
On the razor's edge. Only fools pledge life to honor.
An ally has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed. Shut down.
This is no challenge.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Your allegiances mean nothing to me.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
They won't survive.
You have slain an enemy.
There's nowhere to hide.
difficulty level of this game is deranged. Like, this is what is expected of me? Coming back?
Your team has destroyed a turret.
My fate.
An enemy has been slain.
Your allegiances mean nothing to me. Another body for the gutter. Gotcha. Speed of thought. Take
An ally has been
nowhere
slain.
to hide.
Executed.
Don't cross me. On the razor's edge. Only fools halt light upon it.
Enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Incision! Let's finish this quickly.
An ally has been slain.
They won't survive.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
There's nowhere to hide. Their bones were wet.
Have been slain.
Ridiculous, dude. I can't even farm for 2 seconds. Are you kidding me, dude? What kind of level of play is this? I should be shamed for farming for 2 seconds. What the F, man?
Unstoppable. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
This place.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
On the razor's edge. This is no challenge. Only fools like
You have been slain. An ally has been slain.
How did things somehow become like I really am playing in lower class. Like, did this somehow become the lowest possible level? Is that you can't show your face for 2 seconds or your face gets blown off.
Dominating.
I never compromise.
Shut down.
Let's finish this quickly. Your allegiances mean nothing to me. They won't survive.
Godlike. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
There's nowhere to hide. Unknown body from the gutter. Don't cross me.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Only fools pledge life to honor. Their bones will wet my blade.
Enemy killing spree.
Never compromise. Let's finish this quickly.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Your allegiances mean nothing to me.
Your turret has been destroyed. Your inhibitor has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Triple kill. Enemy has been slain.
There's nowhere to hide. Don't cross me. On the way. Only fools pledge life to honor.
Shut down.
I never compromise.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Enemy rampage.
Gotta even kill steal that. Good lord. Wow, man. Wow. Wow, wow. I win head to head with Master Yi, and you have to let on my first game as talon, and you have to kill steal that. Yeah, this is completely deranged. This cannot be the entry level to difficulty. I'm gonna take it slower here.
Let's finish this quickly.
An ally has been slain.
Nothing to me. They won't survive. There's nowhere to hide. Don't. survive. There's nowhere to hide.
Has been slain. Slain.
Better use it, King.
Has been destroyed. An enemy has been slain. Your turret has been destroyed.
On the razor's edge.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Ally has been slain. Double kill. Has been destroyed. Defeat.